you got to sell yourself first. So if you're
100%.
really excited about it, then it can be as much freedom and ease as when you're telling someone about a good restaurant and there's no weirdness. There's like, you got to go. It's so awesome. Like, and here's what I loved about it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Leads to Growth. I'm your host, Chris McCoy with the National Association of Sales Professionals, and just very happy to have the lovely Vena Sterling with us today. Vena, thank you for joining us with that beautiful smile.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. Vena, I've been trying to put this little interview together for a while. And recently, while we were setting things up, she got a new gig at the Leadership Research Institute. And she's been involved in legal coaching, consulting, leadership development, diversity and inclusion for a long time, but joined forces with a new group. So Vena, tell us a little bit about this new position you're in.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. Leadership Research Institute has been around for over 40 years, and we are a team of entrepreneurial consultants. So we're all members of the firm. We each have our unique practice areas. We work in very large, respected organizations, law firms. And my sweet spot is women, and in particular, women entrepreneurs. I believe as women entrepreneurs, we're raising the next generation of leaders, whether it's in the home or in the workplace in our businesses. So that's my sweet spot, and that's what I love to do.
I love that. And you know, NASP, where, our parent company is a company, True Some Visions. And I think NASP, we just got dumped with all the guys somehow over here, but we've got some awesome, a couple powerful women in here. Amy Suter, who's a rock star, but a lot of the rest of our company is, women entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who, are making those transitions. And now the interesting thing is, the old play was, all right, become an executive. And now it's a little bit more of a, hey, why you got to go work for somebody else? Why don't you do your own thing? And you're seeing a lot more women out there doing their own thing. Tell me about yourself being a part of that and this movement for women.
Yeah, it's really an exciting time. And the numbers just show that new businesses are starting every day. So many of them are women. And we've all heard the research, right? In the workplace, it can be very challenging for anyone who's in a corporate role. But for sure, women, research shows that women are taking on more of the work in the household. So you're juggling that. I'm a wife, I'm a mom to twin boys, and my husband has adult daughters, so we've got some bonus daughters in there. So with all of those dynamics, blended families, we have, I work with clients who have aging parents. So there's just a lot going on, and it can be a lot to manage. And I think the pandemic really sped things up in terms of people getting very, very clear on what's important, what matters most. And we saw that we could work from home with our fuzzy slippers on and still get stuff done.
Exactly. And I'm seeing more and more of this. I think we mentioned it earlier, this gig economy. You're seeing a lot more of women who are juggling these roles. Oh, yep, I'm taking care of the family, I'm taking care of the house, but I got this side business over here on Etsy, or I'm doing this consulting thing on the side, or this network marketing thing, or this online business, whatever it is now. And you're starting to see these things become more viable solutions for advancing in a sales career, as opposed to waiting on somebody else to give you the credit or the opportunity. Women are going out there and taking it for themselves, and I love that.
Yeah, permission to move about the cabin. And a lot of times we wait for permission. We think about it for a really long time, and there's no better time than to get out there. I think one of the challenges that I see with women entrepreneurs is, and this was myself included, leaving a corporate role, and then you turn yourself into an employee and you work in the business versus working on the business and thinking of yourself as the company that you just left, or if it's a side gig, the company that you're still a part of. And with this gig economy, if you're thinking like an organization, then you're excited about all the talent that you can work with out there without, hiring them in that traditional way that we once had to. So I see women as really being the key for creating the cultures and the workplaces that we dream of. Unfortunately, if we're not very intentional, if we don't get support, we just end up creating what we just left, and the joke's on us in that case.
Yeah. We talk a lot about creating a vision, really, a plan. One of the things I heard recently was don't quit unless you have a plan to move forward on something else. And often people are like, oh, let me go see what happens over here. And that's not a plan. A plan is, I'm going to do this. How am I going to do it? I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. But that's a plan. And people don't understand that. They think the plan is, the exact steps that you believe you can accomplish to get somewhere. That's not what it is. It's almost the determination to go no matter what. And you mentioned another thing too, the idea of people creating these self-employed opportunities or their own businesses, which create just jobs, right? But then you have the people who are in corporate America who actually treat their job like their business, and it is, and it's a very interesting thing. And I think it is ownership, that you can build within a company. You can build your brand in sales and in marketing and in coaching. We see people do it all the time. It's what people, will say about you, how you've made them feel and their experiences. And you can take that with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So tell me how you've helped. Tell me how you've helped women in your field and starting their own business and really developing these leadership skills to own their decisions.
Yeah, well, I love what you said. One of the things is about you committing first, right? So it's not a wait and see how it goes. So one of the key areas that I work with women and support them is in committing to their idea and closing all the doors behind you, not having it like an if it happens, but definitely a when it happens. From the perspective of sales, I like to think of this as you've got to sell yourself first on the idea, right? If you're not sold on the idea, if you're out there, you're just trying to see like what the response is, then you're going to have that lukewarm response. But if you know that you are solving a problem that your ideal audience and your customer has, and most importantly, you're lit up about doing it, then that's key. Using myself, I worked in the legal industry. I practiced law for about 10 years. And, there was always this question mark, could I do it? But it wasn't until I said, okay, I get to be out, I get to be responsible for bringing in business, for really like steering the ship, then until you make that decision, it's going to be lukewarm. And it's okay not to be an entrepreneur. Like not everyone, wants to be it. Not everyone wants the risks, and the pressure that's involved with it. So a lot of what I do also is looking at assessments that I like to use so that you can get clear on what's my strength, what's my zone of genius, what's this thing that really lights me up, and for me, that is speaking, being out there, getting the word out. And if you do have entrepreneurial aspirations, that's something that you've either got to want to do that or you've got to get over, your hesitation with doing that. So I would say for sure mindset. Ultimately, we work on transforming your teams, but in my experience, I've seen it starts with transforming yourself, right? Because when I left law, I would do, there was leadership involved as I got more and more senior, but I realized I resisted it. So I went and looked back and, growing up, I was the oldest sibling. Okay. I grew up in the Bronx. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was a pretty rough area. So I was the oldest. Yeah. So you sound like I was the oldest sibling, right? So I had a lot of responsibility early on. And there was a lot of love in my family, but I had a parent who struggled with addiction. So a lot of that fell on me, right? Let's see your hand going up too. Yeah. So we bring these experiences, many of them that we've overcome, but we bring them to the workplace in terms of our leadership. For me, it was, I don't want to be responsible for other people. They're not going to work as hard as I'm going to work. And then I'm going to be accountable for it. So I had to do a lot of internal healing. So we start there with transforming yourself. We look at inclusive leadership, how to transform your leadership so that you're hearing from everyone. You make it safe for people to tell you the truth, because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you're tied to folks' paycheck. They're not going to necessarily tell you the truth. So we've got to get that anonymous data. We've got to get the feedback of the data some way, somehow. And only then can you truly transform your teams with accountability, culture, and all that stuff.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So many points you hit down there. And it's the assessment. I want to go back to that for a second. I love assessments because assessments provide you almost like a neutral perspective, right? It's not a person telling you this, because that can be difficult. I don't know, my skin's not thick enough yet, right? And are you really going to be that honest with yourself if you're not consistently honest with yourself? Probably not. You got a lot of justifications there. All right, so you go to the ones you love. No, you go to who do you go to for that? And a coach, when you have that ability to go to a coach and trust them, that's a start, right? But then the coach has that opportunity to give you your own awareness. Why? Because the coach isn't saying anything. They're not saying anything. You're answering your own questions and reading the results based on an assessment. I think that awareness, Anthony DeMello says this, and I say it all the time on this podcast, what you're aware of, you can change. What you're unaware of is changing you. And so we have,
I like that. That's
yeah.
good.
So you think about biases, and you mentioned our experiences. We built these habits and patterns enough to God that got us here. We survived what we went through. I grew up on West Side 8 Miles, so we got here and we built these patterns up to get here. But now those patterns won't serve us to get to that next level, and we have to become aware of them. And I think that we have a seller style assessment that we provide for people, and it doesn't get all the way into the patterns, but it provides the awareness of, oh, I didn't see myself that way, or I didn't see it in that perspective, that allows you to then say, oh, maybe I can be a different way.
Yeah, it's really key. Like awareness, then you have choice, right? So I like to put together a little assessment cocktail. I use a few different assessments, for sure, a 360, because you got to get feedback from your peers. And even if you're the CEO, you want to have peers outside of your organization. You want to be able to talk to some key stakeholders, such as your team, of course, your clients, your customers, and hear what people are thinking, because they just, they won't, human nature is, they won't tell you the truth necessarily. And it's hard if you're working without the data.
I agree. All right, Vena. So we've got a great big audience of salespeople on here, and all of them are entrepreneurs, as we discussed. You own your own business and you're looking to grow it. That's ownership, right? That's taking choice, that's taking ownership, and that's awareness. I'm looking for awareness of areas where I can improve. So a lot of people are moving into sales. Some people are moving through sales. Sales has been almost on every executive that I interview, sales has been a path or place that they've passed through, which reminds me that influence is a presence in everything that we do. So as you are reaching out to sell and influence people, where has sales and influence been involved in your coaching career, in your career, and how has it supported you to be the person that you are today?
Great questions. Well, one of the things that I tend to do is not think of it as sales. I don't know. There's something about that word when we start.
Oh, it's so dirty, isn't it?
I know. It's like, oh, I'm going to go sell them something. Like, no, I don't like to think of it like that. I think it's, like I said, you got to sell yourself first. So if you're
100%.
really excited about it, then it can be as much freedom and ease as when you're telling someone about a good restaurant, and there's no weirdness. There's like, you got to go. It's so awesome. Like, and here's what I loved about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to touch on that too, because one, skills can always get replaced by passion. I mean,
Mm,
a real passion for something, it's authentic. That's, you can't replace that and you can't fake that. That's one thing. The other thing is, I love how you said you've got to sell yourself first, because in sales, as we sell every single day, picking up that phone every day, and then getting up in the morning after all the other roles that we've got to support and take care of, and then maybe we just shut the door to go into our office and have our fuzzy slippers on and got the kids running
mhm,
around the hallway. Now we got to jump on and make sales calls.
mhm.
Before you jump on that call and try to sell anybody, you have to make sure that you've chosen that this is what you want to do and this is what you believe in and this is where you're going to go. You have to sell yourself first. Vena said it so beautifully, but I think we forget about it. We take it for granted, right? It's not a
Yeah.
overnight decision. It's something you got to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the language we use is important. Just like you said, like now you got to go make some calls. And a lot of times that's how we feel. What if we were to shift that to, I get to make some calls. I get to touch someone's life, so it really is key to have that awareness, have that grounding so that you set an intention before you get on the phone, before you reach out to people. Because, especially when you look at the pandemic, people working from home, there has been research that shows people are really isolated, they
Mhm.
don't get to interact much. We're all used to the Zoomiverse,
Mm.
but we do tend to think, okay, we know how this call's gonna go, right? So I remember when I did some training, some work with a hospice in South Africa, and it was with the people who go out and work with the patients who had AIDS
Oh,
and
wow.
who were, really ill. So we talked about, like the level of awareness that they weren't bringing. They were there just to do a task and check a
Mhm.
box. But it was like, what if you're the last person like that they speak to? Like, how do you want them to feel? What do you want them to walk away with? So I like
Mm.
to think of sales as pouring into folks, finding out what they need. And if I can, support them with solving it, great. I'll share that with them, but it might be pointing them in another direction. And I think it's important when you're in sales to understand who you're looking to work with as well. Like there are times in our business when it's like, okay, you got the money, come on in. But for me now, I've learned that with transforming yourself being the first thing that I really love to dig into, my ideal client is someone who's not afraid of that transformational work, who's really looking to change from the inside out, be the leader
Mm.
that their team needs. And so they're that. They also have a team, right? Like, for a long time, I worked with entrepreneurs who were just starting out. And I find that if they don't set up their business with the mindset of this is a company, it's not a job I'm creating for myself, which means that, they're going to have their org chart or they're going to be ready to create that. They're actually going to set their prices that allow them to pay a team. When they haven't done that, it can be a big hurdle, right? It can be
Mhm.
done because there's all this talent out here now, but that's a challenge. So I love working with women entrepreneurs who have already made that jump. They're like, okay, I know that this business, this company, I can't do it on my own, or they've just gotten so burnt out that they're like, okay, I got to do something different. And they are, selling things. So they're either six or multiple six figures, but they're really looking to get to that next level, that 7 and 8 figures. And then another key area I help with is, okay, what's after this? Right? Like, what's the exit strategy? I think that can be really overlooked. Like, do you want to sell it ultimately? Do you want to go public? I think, unfortunately, not enough of us women entrepreneurs are thinking like that. And I think it can hurt us if we don't get support and answer some of these questions.
I completely agree. It's a common thing that I hear for people coaching and educating those. A lot of businesses that have hit a certain plateau or have maybe got to a place they're not really sure how to get to that next level. And it's oftentimes because they haven't started with that end in sight. And you're right, that is a really valuable thing. And I also loved what you said too about helping people find that internal motivation, that internal place. That's our assessments are designed around an IC8, which separates the internal motivation and the external motivation, always supporting people to find that internal place, because that's where the creation comes from. That's where you're
Mm.
making decisions with your own vision and outcomes in mind, as opposed to what the world or what's happening in and around you. And I think it's a really, really beautiful, beautiful thing for people to remember out there when you're making decisions. I always ask people in sales, oh, so what made you make that decision? And if I hear that, and if I hear them say, oh,
Uh,
well, oh, my wife or the market, or if they first start with something that's out here, you'd already know that it was not the best decision they could have made, because it's a reactive
yeah.
decision, not a proactive decision.
Yeah, not being intentional. We have an assessment called Restore, and it
Mm.
helps you look at how big is your battery and how charged is it. Sometimes we
Mm.
overlook that, but if you don't have the battery to, to support people, then, it's hard. So as a
I'd rethink
leader,
that drive.
self-care, yeah, like you can't overlook self-care because you're the
Yes.
one that people are looking to for what's the vision, what's this, so where are we going, what's the direction, and most importantly, they're looking at who you're being as a leader, right? Like you could
You're the
say all you
example.
want, you could have the values on the wall, but if it's not in your heart, if they can't feel it, then they know. So yeah, there's just a lot of good tools out here.
I love that. And it's staying aligned. Like, I think I love what you said too. You can have this mission or vision of being healthy and all these things, but then now you're working yourself to death, and like it just doesn't reflect, and everybody's like, oh, well, I don't want that. So, you know, great reminder. So you said working with people with teams. So how do you support sales teams in growing and scaling from these smaller businesses? 'Cause I mean, they're not working with this structure of all the marketing tools and everything. So it's kind of a lot of processes and setup, I would imagine, a lot of enablement.
Yeah, well, one, you got to get your systems. Okay. So we talked about data in the beginning. You got to have a place to capture that data, make it easily accessible. Everyone can see it. And in terms of, getting stuff done, it really is about how do you create that culture of accountability. So if you're, at the top looking down and giving your team goals, that can be a challenge. Of course, you set the direction, you set that bigger vision, but you want to give folks autonomy to, to come up with their own goals, the goals that will support your larger goal, so that
Mhm.
they have ownership, they're excited about it. And another thing that's important in addition to the system is, of course, the mindset. So the mindset's in everything I do. Like, how are you being when you get, to your desk and you make the calls? Like that energy that you have, that vibe you have going on, the customers can feel it. So
It's
that's
everything.
key. Yeah, for sure. And then I think too often we look at lag indicators, we look at the results versus the lead indicators, which are, what are the things that are going to move the game? Of course, in sales, you're
Mhm.
looking at how many people am I talking to, but maybe there are some lead indicators that you haven't thought of, or that could be more aligned with your goal. One of the things that I think folks leave on the table a lot is the follow-up and the follow through, right? We have those calls, and then there's no system to catch, okay, these are the people that I get to follow up with, and how do you put it on a certain cadence so that you're doing it automatically? The more you can take out, it's like take out the ability for human error, because like if we
Mhm.
gone on our memory, forget about it. Good luck with that. And
Yeah,
then
right.
infuse more of our shared humanity, that people to people, person to person vibe, because that is really what moves the game.
I love
Yeah,
that. Well, real quick, I want to point that out real quick. 'Cause
yeah.
what I heard there, and let's not repeat what she said. What I heard there was leverage the technology to automate your reminders and your decision makings, but still take the opportunity to be that human and be that reach out to yourself, where it's real easy to get a reminder on your calendar to say, hey, don't forget to send a message, or even a pop-up, or even send the message in advance instead of calendar time to send it later. There's a million different ways to do it to keep human, but to leverage the automation, the mobility, the SaaS, and whatever else is available.
Yeah, and create a game, make it fun. I was calling one of my games once love bombs. I was
Love
calling people to
bomb.
give them a love bomb. Okay. Like, how can I love up on this person and make it fun? You want to have a scoreboard for your team that everyone can see. So they're looking at the lead indicators and, knowing like if they're winning or not, right? Because can you imagine playing like a sports game or basketball and there's no scoreboard? Like, people get distracted. Where are we? I don't
That's
even
so
know
great.
where
I
I
love
am.
that. I love that example. And it's so funny too. Like I was even in a meeting the other day with somebody, and the sales team was like, no, we're contacting them 7 times. And I said, every number in the book says 9 times is like the amount of times you need to follow up with somebody. Like, why are we stopping at 7? But you have to do it personally. You can't just be dot 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 dot. I have to find a cadence, repeat, reflect what they're doing. I love everything that you're saying. I can hear the principle through all the concepts in which you talk about. It's very mindset driven, very human nature, very slow down and take a choice. I really, really like the perspective that you provide people. And I think one of the great things I hear about consultants is, what they do is they help get people out of their own way to make decisions. And in order to do that, you've got to be very influential. You've got to be very empathetic. You've got to be very aware. And I think you do a great job of that. And I think those are some of the greatest skills of salespeople. So very grateful that you took the time and love all the work that you do to help women. We all need to do more to help women, because if it's not a conscious decision, it's the unconscious. And if it's the unconscious, it's based on all the biases that are built up over time. And I guarantee you, they're not what you want to do on your conscious decisions. So no,
don't do that.
All right, y'all. Vena, where by the way, best smile we've had in a while. Thank you. Where can everybody find you, Vena?
So I have Vena.
Sorry,
I
keep
have
saying Vena.
No,
I've
that's
got a
okay.
Vena
I'm
on.
in
I've got a
Miami.
Vena. I got a Vena on my team. I lived in Miami and I ran nightclubs for a little while.
Oh, really? So you're
Oh
the
yeah,
fun one
I ran
get to
Dream
hang out
Nightclub
with.
for a little while in South Beach. Yeah, I was a
Oh,
marketing
that's
director over
fun.
there. Yeah,
That's fun. That's fun. So
yeah.
I have a giveaway, actually, video series. You can go to www.transformyourteams.com with an S, transformyourteams.com. I believe in creating teams in every area of life, at work, at home, and beyond. So that's where they can find me. Also, our Leadership Research Institute website is lri.com. So you can find me there. And I can't wait to connect.
Awesome. I'm going to put your LinkedIn in there as well, so someone can reach out to you.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your message. A lot of times people come on and you'll hear some sales, some techniques, some strategies, but everything that you said was really was heartfelt. It was principle based, and there always seemed to be a little bit of purpose behind everything. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the strategies are easy. It's like all the stuff underneath that we get to manage, and then it falls
Is the
into place.
truth. Yeah, if you start a strategy without selling yourself on that being the right strategy, you'll never have success in it. So this is what a great reminder. Start with your belief. Everything starts with belief, y'all. And everything leads to growth as well. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to drop us some stars, like, comment, and share. And we'll see you all in the next one. I'm Chris McCoy with the National Association of Sales Professionals. See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.